Storytime Stories. I'm Gammie, and I'm so happy that you could join me tonight for Storytime. I look forward to our time together every single time. And I hope you've had a wonderful, wonderful day. And I hope that you gave Mama extra kisses and hugs for Mother's Day. And I know Mommy enjoyed that so, so much. And so without further ado, let's get right into our story. Permission for our reading tonight has been given by Cottage Door Press. And the name of our story tonight is Cinderella. Once upon a time, there was a young girl who lived with her widowed father. Eventually, her father remarried. His new wife had 2 daughters of her own. She was mean and spiteful to the young girl, and so were her daughters. Well, that wasn't very nice at all, was it, boys and girls? We shouldn't be mean to people. We should be nice and respectful and kind. They made the girl do all the housework, eat scraps, and sleep by the fireplace among the cinders and the ashes. Because she slept in the cinders, they named her Cinderella. One day, a letter arrived from the palace. All the women in the land were invited to attend a grand ball where the prince would choose a bride. Cinderella's stepsisters, they were so excited. Her stepmother was sure one of her daughters would marry the prince. She made Cinderella work night and day, day and night, to make them as beautiful as possible. But you know what, boys and girls? Beauty is in our heart. Not on the outside, it's on the inside. Cinderella washed and curled their dull hair. She cut and shaped their ragged nails. She stitched their ball gowns, and she polished their dancing shoes until they shined. Cinderella longed to go to the ball herself, but her stepsisters, they just laughed at her. "You go to the ball," the elder stepsister said, "but you don't even have a pretty dress." "How ridiculous," laughed the younger stepsister. "You're always covered with soot and cinders." That made Cinderella so sad. Tears ran down Cinderella's face as she helped her stepsisters into their dresses and their jewelry. At last, they left for the ball. Cinderella sat alone by the fireplace, and she cried and she cried. "If only I could go to the ball," she said through her tears, "and be happy just for one night. I so wish I could go." Cinderella had barely finished speaking when there was a sparkle of light in the dull kitchen, and there stood a fairy. "Don't be afraid, my dear. I'm your fairy godmother," the fairy said, "and you shall go to the ball." That makes me happy. That makes Gammie happy that Cinderella gets to go to the ball. Cinderella stared in amazement at the fairy. Quickly, she dried her eyes. Really? Can I really go to the ball?" she asked, barely daring to believe that it was so. "If you do as I say, all will be well," the fairy answered. "I'm used to doing as I'm told," Cinderella sniffled. The fairy godmother told her to bring a pumpkin, 4 white mice, and a black rat. Cinderella hurried to the garden to pick a pumpkin, and she found 4 mice in the kitchen, and she caught a rat sleeping in the barn. With a wave of the fairy's wand, The pumpkin turned into a gleaming golden coach. Cinderella gasped in astonishment. "Oh my goodness, it's beautiful," she said. "But who will drive it?" The fairy waved her wand again, and the 4 mice became 4 handsome white horses. She waved her wand a 3rd time, and the rat turned into a tall coachman. "How wonderful! This is so wonderful," Cinderella cried. "But I can't go to the ball in these rags." "And you won't go to the ball in those rags," her fairy godmother cried. She waved her wand again, and Cinderella's rags turned into a beautiful, gorgeous ball gown. Glittering glass slippers appeared on her feet. Cinderella, well, she looked just lovely. "Now off you go," her fairy godmother said. "But remember, all this will vanish at midnight, so make sure you are home by then." Cinderella climbed into the coach, and it whisked her away to the palace. She had never been happier in all of her life. Look how pretty she looks. She's off to the ball. Everyone was enchanted by the lovely stranger, especially, guess who, boys and girls? The prince, who danced with Cinderella all evening. Cinderella enjoyed herself so much, well, she completely forgot her fairy godmother's warning. Suddenly, the palace clock began to strike midnight. Boing, boing, boing. Cinderella picked up her skirts and off she fled. The worried prince, well, he ran right after her. He didn't know what was going on, did he? Boing, boing, boing. She ran down the palace steps. She lost one of her glass slippers on the way, but she didn't dare stop to pick it up. Boing, boing, boing. Cinderella jumped into the coach, and it drove off before the prince could stop her. Boing, boing, boing. On the final stroke of midnight, Cinderella found herself sitting on the road beside a pumpkin. 4 white mice and a black rat scampered around her. She was dressed in rags and had only one single glass slipper left from her magical evening. Even if it was a dream, she said to herself, it was a perfect dream. She had such a good time. What do you think's going to happen now, boys and girls? Let's see. At the palace, the prince looked longingly at the glass slipper he'd found on the steps. He could not forget the wonderful girl he had danced with all night. I will find her, he said to himself, and I will marry her. So he took the glass slipper and he set out to visit every single house in the land. At last he came to Cinderella's house. Her 2 stepsisters tried and tried to squeeze their huge feet into the delicate slipper. But no matter what they did, they could not get the slipper to fit on their feet. Cinderella watched as she scrubbed the floor. May I try, please? She asked. You, laughed the eldest. You didn't even go to the ball. Everyone may try, the prince said. So Cinderella sat down. Her foot slipped easily into the glass slipper. The prince took Cinderella in his arms. You're the one, he said. Oh, will you marry me, please? Will you marry me? Cinderella's stepmother and stepsisters, they were furious. It can't be her. She's just the servant. She dresses in rags. But at that moment, the fairy godmother appeared and turned Cinderella's rags back into that fabulous, beautiful, gorgeous gown. Cinderella took the other slipper from her pocket. Yes, I will marry you, Cinderella said. Yes, it was me. And yes, I would love to marry you. Much to the disgust of her stepmother and her stepsisters, Cinderella married the prince the very next day and went to live in the palace. The couple lived long, happy lives together, and Cinderella's stepmother and her daughters had to do their own cleaning and never went to another ball at the palace. The end. So Cinderella, she lived happily ever after with her prince. See, she was being kind, boys and girls, to her stepmother and to her stepsisters, even though they were not being very nice, were they? And so she did what she was supposed to do. So I hope, Gammie hopes that you enjoyed our story tonight. Cinderella, I did. It had a happy ending, and if you did enjoy it, Gammie would love it if you would give me a big thumbs up. And I appreciate every single time that you come back and listen to Gammie's story time again. And I hope and pray that it's a blessing to you, that you learn some lessons, maybe some good lessons, and have some good quality story time for bedtime. And if you could like and subscribe, I would love that very much. I would appreciate that if you enjoy the stories. And until next story time, God bless you all and sweet dreams. Bye-bye.